I rise today to discuss the crisis that we are facing today in America at our southern border. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have created the worst illegal immigrant crisis in American history. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden removed every successful policy that was in place during the Trump administration. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden replaced them with policies that released millions upon millions of illegal immigrants into our country. The crisis, the chaos, the crime, they're all a direct result of the terrible policies by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Here are the facts. More than 10 million illegal immigrants have flooded into our country. They've done that in just the last 4 years with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden in the White House. At the same time, deadly drugs like fentanyl flowing into our communities. Each year, tens of thousands of Americans are poisoned by fentanyl that comes across our southern border. Our communities in every state are being overrun and overwhelmed by this flood of illegal immigrants. Let's look at the horrible scenes that are developing now in Aurora, Colorado, just to the south of my home state of Wyoming. This is a city where members of violent Venezuelan gangs have turned apartment complexes into hellholes. That's exactly what they've done. One resident said it's been a nightmare. So how did these gangs find themselves in that situation, in that location? And how did the people living in those communities find themselves in this terrorizing situation? Well, according to one report, the Harris-Biden administration, along with the city of Denver, provided the incentives. What are the incentives? Well, Denver offered illegal immigrants 2 months of subsidized rent. The source of the rent money came from Democrats' March 2021 reckless tax and spending spree, $1.9 trillion. So stop and think about that for just a second. The same law that fueled 40-year high inflation, that caused prices to go up for families all across the country by 20% since Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have came into office. That same bill has now incentivized the worst border crisis in American history. It was Vice President Harris who came and sat in that chair and cast the critical tie-breaking vote right here in the Senate for that reckless spending bill. Her one single vote as Vice President, as President of this institution, the U.S. Senate, brought record-high prices and a record-breaking border disaster. Look, these problems spill over from the sanctuary cities like those in Colorado, and they hit neighboring states like my home state of Wyoming. In Laramie County, Wyoming, law enforcement officials say that the number of illegal immigrants in their jails has more than doubled. One of those jailed illegal immigrants is a suspected member of that violent Venezuelan gang that took over the apartment complex in Colorado. A gang has been described as MS-13 on steroids. Make no mistake, Vice President Harris is complicit in all of this border disaster. Now, I think today, Vice President Harris says she wants to secure the border. New language for her. Well, let me tell you, hadn't done it yet. For the past 4 years, Kamala Harris has been the second most powerful person in the world. And she was appointed by the president to be the border czar. He said she knew how, he had full confidence in her, she knew how to handle the problem. Well, as the border czar, she has the power to secure the southern border and has that power still today. Not doing it. So let me ask again, why hasn't it been done? Let me tell you why, Mr. President. Like Joe Biden, Vice President Harris wants to smooth the flow of illegal immigrants. Doesn't want to stop it. Oh, no. Doesn't want to stop it, wants to smooth the flow. This is an extreme position and out of touch with the American people. Like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris opposes the border wall. She had actually called the wall a, quote, stupid waste of money. That's what we hear from the Vice President of the United States. That is an extreme position compared to what the American people would like to see happen today. Kamala Harris also said that building the wall to prevent terrorists from entering the country, she said, was the height of irresponsibility. The height of irresponsibility to try to keep terrorists out of the country. Nope, come on in, she wants. This again, a Kamala Harris, San Francisco liberal, extreme position. Remember, terrorist suspects are exploiting our vulnerability. The number of terrorist suspects that we've caught crossing the border has risen by 3,000% since Joe Biden and Kamala Harris took over the presidency and the vice presidency. This administration promises amnesty for illegal immigrants. This is an invitation. They're inviting millions upon millions of illegal immigrants into this country. This is an extreme position compared to what the American people want and expect from their elected officials. What we're seeing across the country is Kamala Harris, Democrats across the board, sanctuary city, providing free health care for illegal immigrants. Another extreme position of the Democrats in the White House. They demand that our hard-earned taxpayer dollars pay for free housing, free preloaded debt cards, free cell phones for illegal immigrants. The American public hate this. This is their taxpayer dollars. Democrats' open border policies have cost the taxpayers plenty. The numbers are jaw-dropping. $451 billion so far, and the number keeps going up. Like President Biden, Kamala Harris wants to stop deporting criminals who are here in this country illegally. She wants to stop it. In the past, she said illegal immigration should not be a crime. Well, once again, out of touch with the American people. It's an extreme position. This is the truth. Kamala Harris's policies are no different than the dangerous, disastrous, deadly policies of President Joe Biden, who signed 94 executive orders in his first 100 days in office. This is the problem that our country faces today. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris threw open the borders. 10 million illegal immigrants have come on through. When this administration stopped building the wall and ended Remain in Mexico, Vice President Harris was right there cheering on Joe Biden. When Joe Biden brought back the failed policy of catch and release, Vice President Harris had his back. When Joe Biden wanted to send stimulus checks to illegal immigrants, what happened? Kamala Harris came into this chamber, sat in that chair, and cast the tie-breaking vote for this radical and reckless policy, sending stimulus checks to illegal immigrants, just giving them more and more free stuff funded by the American taxpayers. To add insult to injury, Kamala Harris actually has said then, well, the border's secure. Nobody believes that. I don't even think she believes it. She should know better. If she does not, that should disqualify her from being a candidate for president or for being president. September 22, Vice President Harris claimed, we have a secure border. Who's she listening to? Why didn't she go and look for herself? 3 days earlier, the illegal immigrant who murdered Laken Riley entered our country. It is time to close the book on Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and their dangerous border policies. It's time for us to get serious, Mr. President, about securing the border and making our communities safer. Senate Republicans have real solutions. It's finish the wall. It's end catch and release. It's restore the Remain in Mexico policy, a policy that worked. Our solution also includes deporting illegal immigrants and stopping illegal immigrants from voting in our elections. So I return to the question I asked at the beginning. If Kamala Harris wants to secure the border, why hasn't she done so yet? Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.